A table in the enemy's camp. Psalm 23:5 explained. What if the place that feels like your greatest threat is actually God's greatest setup? What if the pressure you're under right now is not punishment, but positioning? Psalm 23:5 declares something radical. God doesn't wait until the enemies are gone to bless you. He blesses you while they're watching. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Psalm 23:5. What Psalm 23:5 is saying to believers. This verse is not poetic comfort. It is spiritual strategy. David is saying, God intentionally places me where opposition is visible, so his victory is undeniable. Notice what God does first. He prepares a table. While he is preparing, wait. He anoints your head with oil. He causes your cup to overflow, and he does all of it in the presence of your enemies. God doesn't hide his blessings. He showcases them, and because you are his showpiece, he showcases you before your enemies. God sets us up by placing us among our enemies. Sometimes we ask, God, why am I here? Why this workplace? Why this family? Why this battle? And God says, because this is the ground where I will bless you. You weren't placed there to be defeated. You were placed there so God could fulfill his word. The enemy thought they trapped you, but God says, no, this is my dining room. I set you in the presence of your enemies so that I can bless you in their sight. Your enemies will know I am your provider, and I will bless you, not ordinarily, but abundantly and exceedingly. You need to know that God's setup is always for a blessings. When Joseph was set in the place of his enemies, when Mrs. Potiphar tried to rape him, he was placed in prison. But there in the face of his enemies, including Potiphar and his wife, God exalted him to such heights, even his brothers. His enemies had to bow down at his feet. God has brought you to this place to lift you before your enemies. The blessing happens on the enemy's ground. God spreads a table on enemy territory. He pours oil on your head where opposition can see it. Your cup doesn't just fill, it runs over. This means the blessing is public, the favor is undeniable, the victory is witnessed. The enemy has front row seats to what God is doing in your life. The enemy did not come to defeat you, they came to exalt you, to see you prosper. Biblical proof. God blesses his people surrounded by enemies, Israel and Egypt. Exodus 12. The Egyptians oppressed Israel for 400 years, but when God delivered them, Scripture says, they plundered the Egyptians of their silver and gold. They didn't leave empty. They left enriched by the enemy's resources. Jehoshaphat, 2 Chronicles 20, surrounded by multiple armies. Instead of fighting, they praised. God caused the enemies to destroy each other. Israel spent 3 days collecting the spoils. Daniel, in the lion's den. Daniel 6, surrounded by death. God shut the lions' mouths. Daniel came out untouched, and his enemies fell into the very pit they planned for him. 2 Kings 6, the enemy surrounded the city. But God opened Elisha's servant's eyes to see chariots of fire. The enemy was blinded and defeated. Mordecai and Haman. In the book of Esther, Haman planned to hang Mordecai on a noose set high in the city square. But God turned that noose into Mordecai's greatest blessing. He turned the hang noose on Haman and his entire family. He exalted Mordecai to Haman's position and gave him Haman's very house as his own. Every time surrounded but never abandoned, attacked but never defeated, oppressed but always elevated. God's plan turns attacks into setups for blessing. The enemy attacks because he senses destiny. The enemy only attacks those who are not in his army. But God blessed those in his army, and God's plan is a setup for blessings. But every attack becomes raw material for God's miracle. Romans 8:28 is alive here. All things work together for good. What the enemy meant to break you, God uses to bless you, build you stronger, and increase your faith. It is truly your ground of preparation for a miracle. You're not under attack, you're under construction, under restoration, at a great table of unspeakable blessings. Stay strong, hopeful, and thankful when you're in the enemy's camp. Don't lose strength. Don't lose hope. Don't lose gratitude. Hope is not denial of reality. Hope is confidence in God's promise despite reality. Keeping hope alive in the enemy's camp, hope is the flame that refuses to go out. It says, this is dark, but it's not final. How do you keep hope alive? Remember what God has done before. Speak God's promises out loud. Refuse to agree with despair. Hope is fuel for miracles. Hope is kept alight in the dark by praise and worship. Expectation, the door God walks through. Expectation is faith leaning forward, faith walking forward where the steps do not even appear yet. Faith taking a leaping, believing that God will stretch out his arms and create a way. Speak a word and make a way. When God places you among enemies, expect him to show up. Expect a grand table to be spread for you before your enemies. Oil that will fill every empty place in your life. Oil that will heal every brokenness. Believe your cup will overflow like the great mighty Jordan in the eyes of your enemies. They will see your blessings and know you are God's. Expectation says, God will fight for me. God will vindicate me. God will bless me right here. Low expectation limits experience. High expectation invites intervention. Keeping faith alive while surrounded, Ephesians 6 says the shield of faith extinguishes fiery darts, not some darts, all of them. Faith is believing. When what you see says no, when what you hear says impossible, faith doesn't panic in enemy territory. Faith waits, confident. Believe God is preparing you for your blessing. When you are let go from the job you served faithfully, believe that God has better and bigger for you. You were just eating the crumbs. Now he wants to give you the entire loaf. When you receive the eviction letter, keep faith blazing, knowing God has a house for you where no one will be able to evict you. Whatever your lost might be, remember God will use it to give you bigger and better. Thanksgiving and loud praise in the enemy's camp. This is where faith comes in real. Worship is warfare. Praise is prophetic. Praise loud enough for the enemy to hear says, I trust God more than this situation. Sing praise. Worship anyway. Let the enemy know God is ready to bless you exceedingly. Oil is being poured on your head to heal every brokenness. Overflow is coming. You may have entered under pressure, but you will leave more blessed than you came in. If you're surrounded right now, hear me clearly. You are not set up for defeat. You are set up for display. God is preparing a table. God is pouring oil. God is causing overflow. And your enemies, they're just witnesses. Stay strong. Stay hopeful. Stay thankful, because when God places you in the presence of your enemies, it's only because he's about to show them who he is through you. When you find yourself surrounded by enemies, remember God is about to spread a table of unusual blessings before you in the presence of your enemies, to pour oil of favor on your head and set mercy and goodness to follow you everywhere you go. It's a blessing, not a curse.